Hi guys, in this week's episode of Taylor Talks Trades, we are with Graeme Millar from Bain Irvine. He's taken us on his amazing journey of 50 years plus in the roofing industry. This episode's a wee bit longer than normal, but it's well worth the listen. I hope you enjoy. Graeme, welcome to Taylor Talks Trades. I'll start where I always start. How did you get into the trade then?
Firstly, thank you, Jamie, for asking me to come today. I've been looking forward to it for a few months, actually.
Yep.
And it's taken us a while to arrange it. So, how did I get into the trade? It's a long story. My family business goes back to 1868, where my great-great-grandfather, William John Millar, started the family business when he slated Fettes College in Edinburgh, the wonderful Fettes College. And he was asked by David Bryce, who was the architect on the property at that time and designing the property, if it was possible for him to set up his own business at that time. And William did so. Mm-hmm. That business went on to my great-grandfather, John Millar, who at the turn of the century had about between 800 and 900 men working for him at that point. Wow. So it was a very substantial business. Of course, in these days, there were plasterers and slaters, so they did both trades.
Yep.
Mainly roofing, but did a lot of plastering work in the winter time where it was easy to get inside.
Yep.
So that made sense, of course. And then my grandfather, William John as well, same as his grandfather, took it on from there. And that was in 1924, just before my father was born. He was born in 1926, and he had two brothers. All three brothers worked in the industry eventually. And William, my grandfather, Willie as he was known, was somebody I knew and who used to babysit for me when I was a kid, when my mum and dad were out gallivanting. So that was the kind of family history of the businesses. And how did I get into it? Well, as a little kid, I was always on building sites and roofing sites and have you. And when I was 10 years old, I remember this specifically. My dad was taking me to school. School was about 3 or 4 miles away, so he had to take me there in the morning.
Yep.
And what we did was I would get up at 7 o'clock, same as him, and we would go to the yard and on the way to school, and he would sort out all the guys and get the vans ready, and everybody would get off to work. And it was a wonderful experience for me as a little kid. But one particular time, 1968, was the storm, the Great Storm.
Yep.
And I could tell my dad wasn't in a particularly great mood that day because he knew what was coming. And what was coming was rebuilding chimneys. It was the worst storm, I think, on record. And if you look back on 1968, you'll probably find that to be the case.
Wow.
Worse on the West Coast than it was on the East Coast, which is probably quite normal.
Yep.
I know you're kind of in the middle of that.
But absolutely.
So yeah, it was that was my first real experience of what roofing was all about.
Yep.
But the good thing about that day was the school was closed because all the windows had been blown in by the storm. So and then my brother, because when I was about 6 or 7, my older brother had started his apprenticeship.
Right.
There was 3 brothers. Unfortunately, Stuart didn't make it. He passed away quite young. So Ian became the next kid on the block after my dad.
Yeah.
And my dad, unfortunately, passed away in 1972. So as a 25-year-old man, my older brother took on the running of a fairly large family business.
What kind of size was it at that point?
It was about between 50 and 60 men.
Still a lot of people.
Still a lot of people. And I remember going at that yard as a kid in the morning. It was a hive of activity, you know. Some of them were going to bigger jobs, but some of them were just
Yeah.
doing jobbing work and
What
stuff.
a buzz though, eh? Can see
It
your eyes
was
actually light up when you're talking
was
about it.
fantastic, and the foreman Peter McDonald and my dad used to argue every morning. So 5 minutes arguing, and then the guys would be set off to their various projects and jobs. So yeah, it was great. And then when my dad passed away, my brother Ian
Yep.
took on the business. And that was a massive responsibility. And I was still quite young. There was a bit of a gap between us.
Yep.
And my mum, good old mum who was left, said, the last thing you are going to do is go into that roofing business. Okay? So I was kind of banned from going into the roofing business. So when I got to 16, I was doing quite well at school. And mum said, you have to stay on at school. You have to get a good education, and you can go on and do something else. And I remember going to meet the officer who looked after your jobs moving forward.
Yep.
Can't remember what they were called at the moment.
Just the school leaver sort of.
Yeah. It's just somebody that came into the school and had a chat with you
this
about
is where you could go and
where you can go. And he suggested, because my maths was good, my arithmetic was good, which came in handy later in the roofing industry,
absolutely.
Jamie, as you know. He said, how about an accountancy job at Scottish Newcastle Brewers?
Okay.
Down at Holyrood at that time. And I said, well, I don't really want to do something like that. It sounds like an office job to me, and I wasn't interested in that. And I was quite a good golfer at that time, so I really quite fancied going into the golf industry in some way, shape or form. So I stayed on till 17, and then I stayed on till 18 and did my hires. But what my mum didn't know was that on Saturdays and during the school holidays, I was out working with my brother.
Right, okay.
Now, we had to keep that a secret. So I would leave in the morning with my golf gear on during the summer holidays. And my brother would have a set of overalls in the van. He would pick me up round the corner. We'd go down to Fettes College and work down there. And then he would take me to the golf kind of 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the day. And then my mum would pick me up from the golf club. Brilliant. So she never knew that I was out working. So that was my early days in the industry. But I never really got, when I made the decision to work in the family business, and Ian was keen to have me there. I was 19 by then. So I didn't go through a formal apprenticeship, but by the time I was 19, I could slate, I could lay pouring roll felts, I could harrow chimney stacks, I could build chimney stacks. So I was very experienced in all aspects, but didn't have a formal training or a formal apprenticeship. And the reason for that was I was never destined to be on the tools.
You weren't meant to be there.
Well, I was destined to be management, I suppose, eventually.
And what about, so when you're talking about going out at the weekends there, did you enjoy that? So did you love the roofing?
Of course.
So when you got there, you thought,
of course, and because I was the wee brother, I kind of thought it would be a bit difficult with the guys. But the guys were fantastic to me.
And see, going back then, like that's something that we obviously see the skill shortages and things that we've got now. And when I had Stevie McLennan on, who you know well, he was saying like it used to be the norm for there to be 50 or 60 people sort of working under the one roofing firm. Is that what's missing now, do you think, that it's so diverse and you've got so many guys just doing it on their own and a wee handful of guys here and there?
Yeah, I think the days of the family businesses are perhaps at an end. I think that is something that's going to be missing from the industry. Because family businesses historically were relatively big businesses, most of them were. And they brought in apprentices. And of course, you had kids, mainly boys, of course, so all boys at that time, queuing up to get apprenticeships.
That's that.
But life has changed significantly, and and I'm responsible for that too, because the last thing I wanted my kids to do was to come in and be the 6th generation roofing contractor. I wanted something. It's not better for them,
Yeah.
but I just wanted them to go and experience something else.
Yeah.
And my daughter's a vet, and my son's a journalist. They have no intention of coming into the family business, so that will it will cease after me from a family perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I mean Steve. I listened to Steve's podcast. Steve's been a good friend of mine for a long time, and Scott Miller's too.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the lack of apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Or apprentices coming through.
Yeah.
At our company, we're always keen to bring
Yeah.
on young people.
Yeah.
I think it's vital.
Yeah. And then, sorry, going back again, so you were kind of about 19 that you came into the family business full time then at that point?
I came into William Millar and Sons effectively full time. I was still potentially pursuing a golf career at that time. But as when I reached 18, there was other things that kind of came into my life. You know what they are.
Well, no, ask too many questions. Distractions, we shall say.
Well, yeah, call them distractions. And my golf career tended to wane a bit, and it became obvious that I was going to follow in my brother's footsteps and my father's, and before that. Yeah, so that was quite an exciting time for me. But the first thing that my brother did was, right, you're not working here.
Right, okay.
I went there for a few months, and he says, right, we're going to farm you out because I don't want to train you myself.
Okay.
I would rather that you got some of that training somewhere else. So go and find yourself a job. So there was a guy at the golf club, Jimmy Muir. He owned a company called Johnson, Muir and Clark. And I said, any chance of coming and learning? And that was a building company, so that was totally different again. So Jimmy says, well, you've got to start at the bottom with me. And I think I was on £3.50 an hour or something. I mean, it was a bit of a culture shock even then. It wasn't a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we kicked off, and Jimmy taught me all about drainage. And one of my jobs we had was drain chokes.
Yeah.
If you do that, you can do anything in the industry. Laying foundations, building brickwork, building houses in effect. Learning about timber, learning about electrics, learning about plumbing. I realised very quickly that I had to specialise in roofing, but to learn all the other trades.
It makes you better at one.
It makes you better at one, but it lets you understand. If you're bringing subcontractors, it lets you understand.
It lets you understand the wider picture, and you can then liaise with the different subcontractors easier because you actually understand what their requirements are and when they maybe need to come in, as opposed to when you think they should come in and things like that.
That's right, and it made. I mean, even some of the work that we do now needs subcontractors to come in, and I'm very understanding of subcontractors. And sometimes subcontractors are difficult to deal with because they've got their own job to do, and you can't get them exactly when you need them or want them. So yeah, that was a problem. So after 8 years at William Millar, well, a year at Johnson, Muir and Clark, and then I went back to the family business and spent. It was October. I was 28 years old. I was in the yard cleaning off the lorry at the end of the day, and my brother came in and said, "You're sacked." We hadn't been getting on well for a while. Typical brothers. And he said, that's it. Now, at 12 o'clock that particular Friday, I remember it like it was yesterday, Norma and I had just signed up with a mortgage for our second house.
Right.
We just signed up that deal that day.
Oh, no.
And then my brother comes in at the yard at 4 o'clock and said, that's me. And he gave me a month's wages. And he says, but he did me my biggest favour that day, because he said, Uncle Andrew has got a wee business, part of the family business down in Peebles. And he wants to speak to you tomorrow morning. So I went up to see him on the Saturday morning, and by the Monday morning, I was down at West Linton, stripping and slating a roof, and with the two guys that worked there at that time.
Just
So
like
I was
that,
their new boss on the Monday morning.
Yep.
They'd never met me, never seen me before. And that was the start of my new career. And 6 months later, Andrew said, right, we're going to become partners now. So we were 50-50 partners. And when he passed away, I took over the company
Yep.
100%. I think that was in 2002 when I officially took over as
Wow.
sole proprietor of
Yep.
Bain Irvine Limited.
Yep.
And we own 3 companies, William Millar and Sons,
Yep.
which is a very successful
So
roofing
is that
and
still
building.
going now?
No, it's not. And
Sorry.
I'll come to that in a minute, Jimmy.
Yep.
But we owned a company called N.F.R.C down in Leith.
Yep.
We purchased that in 1954, I think it
Yep.
was. And Bain Irvine, which was
Yep.
purchased by my uncle Andrew in 1974.
Yep.
So these 3 companies, eventually Millar's and W.N.S. merged
Yep.
into one under the W.N.S. banner.
Yep.
All the men went to W.N.S. and the yard went to W.N.S. So,
Yep.
and that was when my brother retired.
Yep.
He was 50, he decided he'd had enough.
That was it.
He retired to Spain, where he passed away just a few weeks ago, unfortunately. But
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, it was quite sad. But we were best of pals,
Even though he sacked
even though he sacked me, you know. So but I think you've got
Family
to get these
businesses
knocks.
can be difficult, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
you can get these knocks. Uncle Andrew and I worked brilliantly together. He was a
Yep.
genius of a man,
Yeah.
an engineer by profession, but a roofing man through and through.
Yep.
And when W.N.S. were struggling in the mid-1950s, just after they'd been purchased by the family, Andrew went in and turned that company
That's amazing.
round and was managing director until about 1995, I think.
Wow. Wow.
So him and our partnership was fantastic.
You then started with your Uncle Andrew,
Yeah.
and then that progressed through. Where's things now? Is there
Well,
much more in the thingy there, or like?
As far as Bain Irvine's concerned, my first priority was to build that business.
Yep.
We had Jim Bennett, who was the tradesman, and Gary, Gary, can't remember his second name at the moment, but
I'll come back to
memory's
you.
going. Gary was the apprentice,
Yep.
and Francis was in the office.
Yep.
And what that taught me about businesses, and I'd learned this through my business life, is that you need somebody to do your admin.
Absolutely.
Because if you've not got that, you're too busy doing other things.
Yep.
You need somebody to run the admin part of your business. Yep. And Francis did that for us for a few years. And then somebody else came in, and
Yep.
somebody else came in after that. But that was vital for me, because that let me, I was back on the tools again, working with Jim and Gary.
Yeah.
And then what I did on a Friday was do all my estimating.
Yep.
Initially it was Saturday mornings, but then it became Friday, so I spent a bit of time in the office on a Friday doing my estimate.
Yep.
That was the start of me. Then I brought 2 new guys in, 2 tradesmen.
Yep.
And another apprentice in.
Yep.
Bought another couple of vans.
And when was this? When was this? What point?
Very soon after I took over in 1987.
Yep.
I had to build it.
Yep.
Because there was loads of work in Peebles, but there was a lot more work in Edinburgh that W.N.S. and William Millar's couldn't do.
Right. Okay.
Had priced for and got, and so we managed to come in and do some of that work to take the load off them. So it was a ready-made. You know, some people have said, "Oh, Graeme, you have born with a silver spoon in your mouth."
Yeah.
That was never
Doesn't
the
it sound
case.
like it?
No,
Sound
that was
harder,
never
if
the case.
anything.
In fact, it was harder.
Does sound that way, to be honest.
I think an apprentice would be given a lot more benefits
leeway
than ever I got, for sure.
Yep.
But I don't regret it in any way. And the roofing industry has been fantastic to me over that time.
So you were kind of transitioning off the tools. When did you make this step completely away from the tools?
Probably 1990, I think.
Yep.
Maybe 1989,
Yeah.
probably later 1989.
And then you just went
And-
down
and
a more
because
management route and...
Well, that was always the plan anyway.
Yep.
And Andrew's plan was to do less there.
Yeah.
And that's when, in 1988, I joined the Institute of Roofing.
Yep.
And because I was managing partner of the business,
Yeah.
I could join the professional organisation,
Yep.
training professionals, the Institute of Roofing. And they made me what they call an affiliate, which is the first grade.
Yep.
And I worked my way through their examination process and got to become a fellow in 1999. And that changed my professional life in a lot of ways, because I started up, with the help of Andrew, I started up a consultancy business at that time. Mainly doing pre-valuations on properties.
Yep.
You know, people buy a property in the home report now, as it is now, but it used to be a scheme 1 or scheme 2 report. Just told you the basics
Yep.
about the building.
Yep.
It didn't tell you anything about the roof. You know, we saw it from a pair of binoculars.
Yeah.
It looked tired.
And it could be...
It could be anything,
Yeah.
and it could be the most expensive replacement.
Especially in a lot of these properties in Edinburgh, you know, sometimes the roofs can be quite complex and things like that, and there is bits you can't see and
Absolutely. So we did thorough surveys for not a lot of money, but we felt that we needed to charge for that.
Yeah.
And there was no conflict of interest, because none of that work, historically, none of that work came to Bain Irvine.
Yeah.
We farmed it out.
Yeah.
If anybody asked for recommendations to Andrew and I, we would go around the local roofing contractors and just say, well, you know, Cullen Hogg or Christie's, or, you know, anybody that we knew could do a good job. Go and ask them for a cost, and they'll give you an indication of what you need to do.
That's quite a thankless sort of task to just do for the goodwill of the roofing industry, really.
It was wonderful, because it got me to know other contractors, and they respected what we were saying, because we were very good at what we did. I hope that doesn't sound too big-headed, but Andrew was just an exceptionally professional man. Every T was crossed and I was dotted, and I learned so much from him. He was my mentor. Ian, my brother, on the kind of trades side, because Ian was a master slater by the time he was 25. As were all my family all the way back. My dad was a wonderful slater, very talented man. That was the change. The Institute of Roofing thing was a big change for me, because having 4 letters FIOR after my name, the lawyers were giving us work, giving us the opportunity. And
it's
the
good to have
GMR
that recognition as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it was nice. And they were crying out for somebody to give them, their clients, more help in buying a house. So that's how it started. But nowadays our main, Alan, my business partner in the consultancy, does most of that. And our biggest clients are Police Scotland and Trading Standards.
Oh, really?
Because they are giving us so many rogue trader business that we go out, we look at the work that's been carried out, some of it not so good, some of it not even done, to be honest. And
it's worrying times.
To be
honest, and it's getting worse, I think.
Well, hopefully the work we're doing
can help
through the expert witness in the courts. Not a very nice experience, that, by the way, standing in a witness box with a rogue trader standing there getting defended to the hilt by a very knowledgeable KC, as they are now. It can be quite.
Do you think some of that comes from just lack of education, or do you think it's more like, are they trying to rip people off? Do you think, or do you think they just don't know and they're thinking that was fine, that job I done?
No, it's purely financial.
There is that.
They are criminals. I think there's people in the industry that don't do a good job, but are trying to do a good job. They
probably want to, or they think they're doing a good job, because that's the way they've been taught.
That's there has to be education there. And that brings me on to, in 1999, I took Bain Irvine into the N.F.R.C,
Yep.
the National Federation of Roofing Contractors. And that was the same year I got my fellowship at the Institute of Roofing. So I thought, I need to take my business forward here.
Yep.
We had probably 20 men by that time.
Yeah.
So I needed to make sure that my health and safety policies and everything was in proper place.
There's a lot more risk when you get to that amount of people.
Well, when you get to that level, yes, Jamie, that's absolutely right. So I joined the N.F.R.C, the company anyway, and was on the Scottish committee, kind of like you are.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, and that's great. Welcome. You're more than welcome to be on that committee because there's so many old guys in that committee. We need a bit of young blood.
Some young blood.
Sure.
No, it's been a pleasure actually being on there and just hearing from guys like yourself and just hearing the history of it all as well. And
well, it goes back a long way, and it's
just good being in that environment and you know, just being able to pick your brains because you're not trying. Guys like me, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are trying to maybe bring new modern ways of doing things, but roofing's still roofing and it's got the same sort of core values. So you want to keep the traditional aspects of that, but maybe just using more modern social media and, you know, they've got all this AI coming in and different things. Everything's changing at quite a fast pace, but we need to make sure that the traditional roofing values are kept, especially the Scotch slating and that side of it.
That's right. And one of the things we did at the N.F.R.C, and I was very much responsible for with Gerald Emerton, a very dear old friend of mine, was bringing heritage roofing into the N.F.R.C as a separate discipline, a separate category.
Yeah.
Because with all due respect to slaters, there's a lot of slaters can slate. There's a lot of non-slaters can slate because it's straightforward. You know, 14/8 slates, bang, 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 bang.
Yep.
But the more complicated kind of, you know, diminishing course, turrets, that kind of thing, things that are more complicated.
Trade on its own almost.
And that's what we thought at the time, and that's why we brought in the Heritage Register.
I think that's fair and a good thing to do, actually.
Well, it's been very successful. I think there's about 100 companies that have now, N.F.R.C companies that are now registered with the Heritage Register.
That's a good amount, actually.
Yeah, it's
good
wonderful
to know that there's that many actually there, because you feel as though it's, no, I use the word diminishing again there, you just said diminishing courses, but it feels like the amount of traditional guys and heritage roofers that it is diminishing. It's kind of...
Well, it's vital that we keep that going.
I think a lot of it probably does come from the lack of like you said, maybe the family business, like coming down through the generations. Like there's no as many of these guys anymore that can actually bring their sons in, or you know, and teach them that slating practice. So it's the responsibility's on quite a select few now.
Well, it'd be nice if the colleges could do another year, perhaps, of just heritage work, and if the companies that are sending apprentices to the college could put up with that extra year, what a difference that would make in retaining the values of I just think traditional roofing.
Yeah, you know? I think when you learn the more traditional stuff and you see that being done, you sort of get a bit more of a love for what the roofing actually is. Whereas if you're just slating straight panels, maybe Spanish slates, like you said, 14/8s or 16/10s, there's no a great deal involved in that. You know, it's when you're actually doing this stuff that you're maybe cutting in like intricate valley details, or you're doing turrets with Scotch slate. That brings a bit more of a passion about it, and there is a history to it. And I think if you're exposed to that, I think you just become better at the basic stuff as well. It just almost makes you level up.
The basic
you care
stuff
about
becomes
it a bit more.
Basic.
And it allows you to just actually just care about it a bit more as well.
I was down at the N.F.R.C Awards just the other Friday there in London, and the roof that won the Roof of the Year was a traditional.
I've seen that,
did you see it?
It was the guy. Was it Stuart Wheeler?
Yes.
I hope I got the name right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
a young guy.
It was the dormers that were waved.
Yeah, he'd done swept valleys, and he'd done it with Cornish Delabow slates, and it looked. Well, to be honest, it didn't look all that great. Not the quality of the workmanship,
Yeah.
but the type of slate it was. It looked a bit all over the place. But Delible
It's meant
slates
to look like that,
is meant
yeah,
to look
yeah.
like that. So he could not believe he'd won his category,
Yeah.
far less the Roof of the Year. He
Yeah.
just about staggered onto the stage,
That's amazing.
He
Good
was,
on him.
and it was wonderful because he'd been in his early 30s,
Yeah.
I think. Kind of like
yeah.
the way you've grown your business.
Yeah, what
and
a confidence booster as well, just to be recognised on that kind of a platform.
And it's all over the magazines now
Yeah.
as well, so you'll be cheesing.
There's no hiding for it. And as well, just now
Absolutely.
with social media and all that stuff, you can put it everywhere as well. It's not just like
Roof
it's
of
in
the
that
Year.
magazine. That's a
Roof
big
of
one.
the Year, that's a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beating all the other disciplines.
Yeah.
You know,
it's good.
I don't know how you can make a flat roof look good, but some of them tried to.
Oh, brilliant. And then, so what was the advancements then? Company, that all sounds great. You've kind of covered that. N.F.R.C, you went on to become chairman, president.
Yeah, well, the N.F.R.C in Scotland
Yep.
started my kind of committee life.
Yeah.
I'd been on, I'd been a trustee, still am a trustee of Sports Aid Scotland.
Yep.
So I was on the committee of the golf club. Excuse me. So I knew how committees worked.
Yep.
And then I was asked to join by John McKinney and
Yep.
onto the committee in Scotland,
Yep.
which I really enjoyed and met some of my peers for the first time, really. And it was wonderful. Just kind of like what you're experiencing now, meeting new people that were really into the business.
Which is rare, by the way, because even I was explaining this to you the other day about this podcast, it's like I felt as though it was difficult to go completely niche into a roofing only, because I felt, well, other roofers actually come on, and there's a large element of the industry that will collaborate, like we see at the committee and things like that, where we're all roofing contractors, and you could say competitors in one way or another, but none of us actually see it like that. We actually sit there and respect each other for what everybody's doing in the industry. So it's good to now see that the collaborative approach is hopefully spilling out a wee bit. And now I've had a good few roofers kind of on here, or guys with roofing backgrounds, and I hope to continue to do that so that we can get more eyes and ears onto the roofing industry, because it needs it more than ever, actually.
And the N.F.R.C is a wonderful platform for that, I think.
Yep.
So I did my bit on the Scottish Committee and became chairman of the Scottish Committee, I think 2010 or something, to 2012. And by that time I was on the main board of the N.F.R.C in London.
Yep.
And I was chairing the Slating and Tiling Committee.
Yep.
And we were working on the Heritage Committee, which I became chairman of. So I spent a lot of time.
Yeah. So you've shaped quite a lot of it as well, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, but it worked for me.
Yeah.
It was time consuming, and I had to leave my business to others, really, a lot of it to others to keep it safe. And they managed to do that relatively. So I would like to think that the N.F.R.C, that experience at the N.F.R.C, and then I became president from 2012 to 2014, which is a wonderful experience for me.
Yeah.
And during that period, I was introduced to the IFD, the International Federation of the Roofing Trade, because they put me onto the Pitch Roofing Committee. So that gave me the opportunity to travel around Europe and attend committee meetings, meeting similar roofing contractors. They're just the same in Germany and Romania and Austria as they are here, you know. They've all got the same problems, same white van men out there on the roads. I hope you've not got a white van, Jimmy.
No.
That was a wonderful experience. So in 2014 in Bucharest, I was nominated to get a position on the board of the IFD, and in 2019 I became president of the IFD at the Congress in Edinburgh, which was a great experience. Now, that would normally be a 3-year spell, and I would have finished in 2022, but because there was COVID and there was a war, they decided that it made sense to give me another 3-year
Extend
period.
it,
So
yeah.
I'm still
Get a good run at it.
yeah, and do some of the work rather than sitting in my dining room speaking to people. Get
Yeah.
out there and speak to people.
Yeah, makes
And
sense.
yeah, my wife has given the opportunity to join me on trips, so we travel quite extensively to. You know, I was in Dallas just a few weeks ago, San Diego. We're in Shanghai
The
recently.
Americans love the
They love the
roofing,
Scottish.
don't
They love the Scottish roofers.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
yeah.
And you can tell them as many stories as you like. Some of them true, some of them not so true. But they love it.
Yeah.
They love it. So
And
yeah.
is it just because, what is that? Is it because they're, like, their roofing industry, isn't it, like, is sort of
It's not as old.
historical as ours, do you
It's
know?
not as old, but I tell you
Do
what,
they do
they
any
work
slating or
hard.
anything like that over there?
Oh, they do tons of slating.
Yeah, but you don't see it mainstream as,
No,
like, every time I see something to do with a roof in America, it's like shingles or something like that. You know, it's very rare to see these other pockets of the slating and
most of the
things.
slating is in the north,
Yeah.
around the slate quarries of Vermont and Pennsylvania. So that's
Yeah.
kind of where it all
What an
started. And all
experience
the
for-
money was up
yeah.
there at one time. The
Yeah.
Bostons, the New Yorks,
Yeah.
where all the big houses,
Yeah.
New England, you know, all the rich people
Yeah.
were there. So they wanted slate on the
And have
roofs.
you been to the quarries and stuff there?
I've not been to the quarries.
No.
I've been invited a number of times.
Yeah.
I've just not had a chance to get to the Vermont quarries,
Yeah.
which is the ones I want to go to.
Yeah.
I've been to most of the other quarries in Spain and
Yep.
Wales, obviously,
Yep.
Westmoreland.
Yep.
So
What an
yeah,
experience, eh? Just getting to go and do all
but
that stuff.
the most important thing I've been learning about, I did a presentation in Dallas just a few weeks ago about what the struggles that we're having getting young people into the industry, and it's no different. It's no different in the United States.
Yeah.
The problem they have in the United States is that only 2% of the roofers that work in the industry are trained.
Right, okay.
So that's 98% that are out there doing work that are not trained in any way,
Yeah.
shape or form. Mostly, I have to say, from south of the border in Mexico, and
Yep.
a lot of immigrants coming in and filling these voids.
Yeah.
But there's a company called Durable Roofing, run by John Chan and Gary Howes, wonderful guys. And they were over at the awards, and they've been to the Welsh quarries just
Yeah.
the other week. And
They'll be in their element.
Oh, well, they're just committed roofing people.
Yeah.
I've never known anybody that is committed to roofs like these two.
Yeah.
But they're into TikTok and Facebook
Yep.
and social media generally. They are all over these things, showing their projects.
Yeah.
And even their employees do podcasts
Yep.
and saying how much they enjoy it. And let's get young people in
Yeah.
here, and they're big on training.
That's good.
And the Americans are doing a big training program. They got, I think it was $50 million from the government to set up training programs for roofers. And that's happening. And we've got brilliant training groups in the UK,
Yep.
but we're just not getting enough kids going,
Yep.
girls or boys.
Yep.
I mean, if you go to Germany, the amount of women that are working in the slate industry, working on the tools, it's amazing. I don't know what percentage it is, but it's fairly high.
Wow. That's
You know, it could be
interesting.
as much as 10, 15%.
And what's the difference then? Why are they being drawn in there and they're not being drawn
I don't
in
know.
here?
I think they do, maybe I shouldn't use this word, but I think they make roofing sexier in Germany. They make it more...
I know what you mean. See, even if you see like the slate hammers that they produce, and a lot of the guys over here will buy them, and it's like that just, there's just something special about it. You're like, oh, that looks really good. And
although it's traditional.
It might be things like that. It's just trying, like, there's a lot of no so sexy roofing projects in the UK. So maybe it's the fact that it's just trying to find these more traditional ones and things that you can work on that you can actually take a bit of pride in. Even like, because I'm based in West Lothian, and I've sort of followed suit probably from like when I was employed, we did all the sort of roof round about here that was like stripping retiles front and back of a roof, just up and over. Same with like a slating, you know, we didn't really get a good opportunity to go into like Edinburgh and Glasgow and maybe be slating turrets and seeing some really historical stuff. So even for my company, it's like a lot of what we do is just serving homeowners and just giving a really good service, and you do the quality job, but there's no that much to it, if I'm honest. It's the basics of roofing almost. And
yeah, unfortunately, the very much the heritage job doesn't come around. I can't even remember how many turrets we've done in the last 40 years.
Yeah.
But maybe one a year if we're lucky.
Yeah.
So these don't come about very often.
That's probably just the modern homes taking over as well, and
and there's a massive issue just now with sustainability and climate change and environmental issues, which all need to be taken into account with modern construction, but also retrofits for original construction. There's room for that, and there's room for roofing contractors to get involved in that too. And the solar area of work is going to grow. I don't think there's anything more surer than that.
Yeah, definitely.
And specifically with the cost of
fuel poverty basically at the moment.
Absolutely, electricity and gas. My wife and I just got our bill in this morning, and you think
we nearly didn't make it here.
Aye, yeah, didn't have enough money to put fuel in the car, and I keep saying to Norma, last winter the warmest thing in our house was the fridge. So we just have to save money. We can't spend it on staying warm all the time. So it's an extra couple of layers and hot water bottles. And
what's the setup with the World Championships with like the IFD and that then?
Well, the IFD are doing wonderful work for young people in the industry, and I think the World Championships is our kind of target audience. That's where we want countries to become involved. Last year we were in St. Gallen in Switzerland hosting the World Championships it's called for young roofers.
Okay.
We might have to change that because it's under 30.
Okay.
So is that young? There's a debate about that going on.
I'm over 30 now, so I can't comment.
Do we open it up to roofers generally? So that we can get more entries.
It wouldn't be a bad thing, I don't think.
Although we had 28 separate entries for the World Championships in St. Gallen. And it takes in 4 disciplines. We have facade, which is very much an important part of roofing, building envelope now. We have metal, we have flat, and we have pitched. So these 4 disciplines, Switzerland were extremely successful at the event. We had a beautiful prize giving on a ship on Lake Constance. It was just, the whole event was just fantastic. I had my kilt on, which caused a few areas of concern. Managed to get my ski and do in there through customs. We just had a wonderful time. And these young kids, relatively young kids, loved it. Representing their country, what can be better than that, and doing what they love to do.
I'd really like to find a pathway of bringing like the youth into the industry and finding them a pathway to be able to go to the World Championships. Like I remember one time, so when I was at college doing my apprenticeship, I didn't really have my head screwed on properly at that point yet. And although I enjoyed roofing and I enjoyed my job and things like that, I do have a wee bit of regret around just not applying myself as much as I could have. I'd sort of worked a year with the company that I'd served my apprenticeship with and then got put to college. So I'd been used to being out and about. So when I went to college, I almost felt a wee bit like going back to school because like I had been used to like a man's kind of working environment, and I was now just on the tools, labouring, helping with these guys. And then when I went back, it almost like my head got filled a wee bit with carry on because it was like guys I maybe used to play football with or things like that, and we all kind of came together, and it became a wee bit too much a carry on. And I do regret that a wee bit, but I remember Bob Coots, who was my lecturer, who I'm sure you'll know well, one time he said, I'm going to put you in for this competition, and to be honest, like my eyes kind of lit up, but then it kind of like it's just too much carry on and stuff, and ended up went, you're not going.
Well,
I always normally look back and go, I should have done that.
Well, you should never look back too much.
I know, but
hindsight's great. But the pathway to the World Championships is through skill build. in the UK.
That's on just now, actually.
That's on.
Bob
I
just
noticed
said to
Bob
me to go and
was
see,
knocking
have a
up the
look.
rigs
Yeah, yeah.
in the college. So yeah, that happens, and then the winners of that tend to get put forward.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the UK, the N.F.R.C. only put in one team
Yep.
last year, which was a bit disappointing.
Yep.
Even that was a bit of a struggle because
Yep.
finances are not great at the moment within the industry. And but a wonderful sponsor came forward, Paul from Recticel. He gave a certain amount of cash to the kids to get them over
That's
there. So we had
brilliant.
one team, and he was blown away by the whole event. He
Yeah.
didn't know what to expect, but when he got there, he thought, "Wow, this is fantastic."
We need to be getting more of this.
And we need, and
definitely do.
he said that if it's possible, he will sponsor the 4 teams in the 4 disciplines, because we've got great facade guys, we've got great metal guys.
Yep.
You know, Stevie McLennan's team, and there's Blake's in Edinburgh. I mean, they all do that type of hard metal. It's not lead, it's hard metal.
Yep.
And we're good at pitched roofing. Our guys are really good.
Yeah.
They struggled a wee bit this time because they didn't have a lot of time to prepare, because one of the lads, I don't know what happened to him, but he decided not to do it.
Right, okay.
Kind of, 3 or 4 weeks before the event.
Yeah.
So young James Emerton came in. He's only 17.
Right.
So he came in, worked with his brother Will at the event, and did really, really well. But they were just a bit slower than the Swiss guys.
What a great experience, though.
It was a wonderful experience.
Yep.
So the IFD is concentrating right now on climate change, which is a priority for us, sustainability, environment, and bringing young people into the industry. Working with all the countries that we work with. Germany have got a wonderful training program. We need to mirror that. I remember they had they call it kindergarten. We call it nursery.
Yeah.
They had it was like a little book of, it was like Fireman Sam, but it was Reggie the Roofer.
Wow.
Okay, it was just a little thing where it just had little pictures, and these kids in the kindergarten were looking at this and seeing Reggie the Roofer, and then the German Federation did another one and another one with different.
It just shows you, it's like getting into planting the seed quite early.
Wow. And that was a lot of years ago, and I wonder how many of these little kids grew up to be roofers. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
That's amazing.
It was just the way they do things is slightly better than what we do. But we're learning all the time, and that's what is good for the IFD, spreading the word and getting people together to speak about it.
Amazing. I love all the work that you're doing, Graeme. I think it's just really take my hat off to it, to be honest, and hope that I can in some way, shape or form emulate some of the things that you've done and just try and do that bit to get
the
it
only
out
way
there
to
as
do
well.
it, Jamie, is I've learned from Gordon Penrose and Peter Rogerson, guys that I
Ones
look
who's
up
went
to.
before you,
Yeah, and
had some good conversations with Gordon. He's meaning to come on the podcast, but trying to pin him down for dates when he's over here.
Well,
and
pin him
things
down for dates is not easy. Stopping him talking will be even harder.
Oh, brilliant.
Worse than me, I think.
No, that's amazing. And what's what's next then? Where are you going now?
Well, the next thing is, obviously I've got a couple of years to go in relation to the IFD, and they want an English speaker on the board for the 3 years after that.
Yeah.
It's 2 languages, English and German. My German's non-existent, so I have translators for all my meetings, which is quite inexpensive. So it'd be great if we could get an English speaker who had a bit of German, and I would very much like the N.R.C, the American organisation, the slating, the roofing organisation over there, have just recently joined the IFD as a full member.
Okay.
So it would be good if we could get one of the Americans on the board.
Yeah.
The Chinese Waterproofing Association, Mr. Zhu and his team, a wonderful bunch of people.
Yeah.
They wanted to host the World Championships, and in fact would plan to go to Beijing.
Yep.
But COVID knocked that on the head, so that was a crying shame. So it'd be good if we could get somebody from China on on the board. The most unfortunate thing I've had to do as president was to tell the Russian Federation that,
Yep.
you know, it was a difficult one.
Yeah.
Because we'd known Elena and our team there for a long time.
Yep.
And they'd been members of the IFD for a long time, but we had no choice but to do what a lot of other organisations did and just suspended their membership
Absolutely.
for a period of time. That's a shame.
And for you then, Graeme?
Well, the IFD, obviously, for the next 2 or 3 years, I'm going to get more involved in the Institute of Roofing.
Yep.
I've just been I've been voted back on as a governor of the Institute of Roofing recently, so I'll do 3 or 4 years there. You know, I don't know what my role's going to be there, but it'll be education.
Yeah.
My role at the IFD, as well as being president, is education and training,
Yep.
so I'm going to take that very seriously. Bain Irvine, I can say right now I'm officially retired. I retired a week ago.
Wow.
Because you know, it's been
Spinning
hard.
too many plays now and just die.
Well, a bit of that.
You've
So
done your bit as well.
I've left Alan, my co-director, and Ryan McKenzie, my manager, in charge of the company. We've got great admin staff, and Ilona, our finance girl, who's just told me that she's going to have to take a year out for family reasons.
Yep.
And Alison, who is our general admin, looking after our 500 annual maintenance clients, which is not easy.
Yep.
So the boys are entrusted them to do, and this week I've only went in the office for half an hour so far.
That's not too bad.
And the office is only 2 minutes walk from my house, so that was quite difficult.
Just another transition.
And I feel guilty not going in.
Yeah.
But I got a phone call this morning. Craig was off 2 days last week. Are we deducting his wages? So, you know, the usual stuff. So
you'll get retired yet then?
That's certainly my intention. What I do with the business, it's very much up to Alan and Ryan what they want to do.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't happen, I would probably have to sell the business. But in such a way, because my family's not interested, but in such a way that if whoever comes into that business keeps my staff and keeps the business the way it is, so I'll be vetting that very closely in case that does happen. Another roofing contractor that I know would be ideal to come in. I mean, they would increase their turnover by $750,000 overnight, and that's hard to do in this day and age. So that's I'm hopefully not selling my business online here.
Just a bit.
But that's kind of where my path. I play a bit more golf. My wife's just taken up golf about 3 years ago, so we'll play in mixed foursomes and stuff. And
well, we'll wrap up at that, Graeme. That was an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Good on you.
Nice to see you.
Good on you.
Take care.